Welcome to Latitude 40, redesigning tourism on a small island. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We acknowledge the Palawa people of the Trawulawai Nation and recognise their continuing connection to the land, waters and culture of the islands. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. The first thing you'll notice on Flinders and the Furneaux group of islands is the breathtaking scenery. In every direction, what you see is like nothing else in the world. It's deeper than quiet beaches and coastlines, mountains and mist. These islands have a rich and dark history and an intensely passionate community that wants to reckon with its past and build the right future together. No one is here because it is the easiest place to live. Everyone is here because it's different. When something works on these islands, it tends to be small and special. As the rest of the world chases growth, we chase meaning. We have a complex relationship with change because we understand what it can bring. It's different here, and we make different invitations to visitors. For an unforgettable time on Flinders Island, learn to be one of us for a few days, a week, or the rest of your life. Slow down, listen, get lost, contribute. Don't try to change this place. Let this place change you.
I'm Debbie Clark.
And I'm Josie Major. We're honoured to be your hosts for this Latitude 40 series, sharing the stories of the Flinders Island community and the Island Away Regenerative Tourism Living Lab.
I'm Wendy Jubb-Stoney and I own and run a guest house called Flinders Island Gourmet Retreat at Cooma House. At that guest house, I also have a sustainable kitchen garden from which I make lots of meals. I do cooking schools for guests, but I also am available to do cooking schools for other people who come in, who are visiting the island or local people. I am involved in the promotion of Flinders Island via the tourism side of the association, the Flinders Island Business Association. I'm very interested in the history of the island and I'm a member of the Historical Research Society. I also am a member of the Artists Society or organisation, and I do a little bit of painting when I have a chance, but actually I haven't had a chance much lately. The most painting I do is to make a few cards of thanks to people or birthdays and things like that nowadays.
Yeah. Sounds like you keep very busy. We're learning that on Flinders Island a lot of people wear a lot of different hats and have a lot of different jobs, so I'm not surprised that you're doing so many things and finding hard to find time for your art as well.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. So can you tell us a little bit about life on Flinders Island? We're interested in what you think makes it unique and what you love about the island.
Well, I grew up on Flinders Island, and I think that that's something when people grow up in a place and they have a great love, they invest themselves in that place. I think that a lot of people who have grown up on Flinders Island haven't left. I did leave, and I did a lot of things throughout, my life. I've travelled a lot. I've done a lot of different things, but I have mostly stayed in the hospitality, accommodation and tourism and hospitality sector of work life. When I was a kid, I had to go to boarding school, as so many others did as well. And I was standing down at Badger Corner looking out, waiting for my dad to come back, actually, because he was the last person to take the mail from Flinders Island down to Cape Barren Island. And I was waiting for him to come back. I was out on the rocks and I started, having a few tears because I didn't want to go to boarding school. And the gentleman who was looking after me, or it was Mr. and Mrs. Riddle who live at Badger Corner, and old Bill Riddle said to me, "The islands get a hold on you, girl, and they won't let you go." And it's been what has been in my heart forever. I love the mysteries and the moodiness of Bass Strait. We would go, my dad would take me in the boat down, and the rest of the family, down to Long Island, which is just off Cape Barren Island, where we also had a farm. But we lived out mostly at Mamana, between Mamana and Long Island. And the mysteries and the moodiness of Bass Strait are enormous. And then there's the wildness and beauty of the landscape, which most people who come to Flinders Island are blown away by. And talking about blowing away, the wind can blow cities full of clouds away. You asked me about whether or not what I thought about tourism, because actually I'm involved in tourism. And my kind of tourism is a very interactive sort of tourism. So when guests come to stay with me, I tell them all of the stories that there are that I know. I also explain to them where to go and how to get there and what to look out for. So when the stories of Wyballina are being told, I not only tell the stories of misery and death, but I also talk of the stories of hope and survival, and that there are, this was a different era, and we can't judge history from where we stand now. And I think that kind of interaction gives people who come, and they certainly tell me that kind of interaction gives the people who come to stay with me a different understanding of being on Flinders Island. They're not just going there and taking what they can and leaving. They're actually understanding that this is part of history, their history as part of Australia. And the other thing that I wanted to tell you about is that, in my view, the tourism that comes a little at a time, who are people who are looking forward to the scenery and the bird life, and the warmth of the people, and the way the wind, as I said before, can blow cities full of clouds away, is extraordinarily beneficial to it's uplifting. It's uplifting. That's what the wind and the scenery and the skies and the clouds do. Being surrounded by sea, we are a very mild climate, so we don't have the extremes of temperature. So we're 6 degrees warmer in winter on Flinders Island than we are in Melbourne, for example, and a lot than other places. So, yes, it makes a difference. It's not as cold overnight, but it also doesn't get as warm during the day either in the winter, and in the summer, well, it doesn't get as hot. It's a beautiful maritime environment.
I love the picture you've painted for us and the flavour and the sense that we get just listening to you about what Flinders is, and it sounds like such a special place. What really interests me as well is this idea you're talking about, is like yourself, you've been there for such a long time, and you have accommodation. You have the Flinders Island Gourmet Retreat, and you talked about sort of what a host can offer to visitors when they're staying in a hosted accommodation. So talk a little bit to us about your business, your property. We'd love to hear your origin story and what role your business plays in the Flinders Island community.
So Flinders Island Gourmet Retreat began as an idea after my dad died in 1999. And I thought, I have to come back to Flinders Island. And so I purchased the property that I now run Flinders Island Gourmet Retreat from. And over the years, I've developed, a garden. I've developed a landscape around it. And I eventually had sufficient funds in order to build Flinders Island Gourmet Retreat based on Howquadale Gourmet Retreat, which was written up in Harper's Bazaar over the years. It actually operated asking or inviting the best chefs in Australia to come and give classes. That hasn't happened particularly because of COVID, so I haven't pursued that of recent times, but I do offer cooking classes to my guests who come to stay, as well as to local visitors and local people. So Flinders Island Gourmet Retreat started because I have a great love of cooking. I have a great love of ingredients, especially the kinds of ingredients that are available on Flinders Island. So although sometimes they are very hard to get because of government policy, and that's the case all over the place too. That happens the same as connectivity. The resources for connectivity and the resources for food and the best kinds of offerings in the country are more difficult to achieve because of, various policies that, we all live with. So, but we do have wonderful vegetables and fruit from the garden that I put into practice in my cooking classes as well as for my guests. So I have, the normal things that you can grow seasonally, and I stick to seasonal produce as well. So I can't wait for the seasons to turn to change. So when it comes to June, I'm looking at my garlic to plant for next year. And all through my gardens, there are times when, it looks as though it's a bit untidy, but it's because I want to leave those beds fallow in order to give them a rest and to build them up for the next season. So, and then, I've got the broad beans in, of course, and broad beans just are such a delight to have fresh off the plant as soon as they're ready. But I don't mind having the older ones as well, so they are dried. I've got all kinds of seasonal produce that I get excited about when I go out to the garden to pull some leeks or to grab some oranges or lemons or limes. So living within my means, living in the garden, making good compost, all of those things are special to me and a really important part of being on Flinders Island, because one of the things that people don't realise is that if you have to plan for a month in advance often, but at the very least you have to plan 1 week in advance, because the things that come on the boat come only once a week. And sometimes that can be, delayed for some reason or another. So you become able to plan in a different way to what you would live in a city where you have access to all things at all times and at all seasons. I make sure that I'm, living very seasonally, and I look forward to it. I look forward to raspberries. I don't have them all year. I only have them during the raspberry season. But I do make raspberry jam, so I can have some, something of the raspberries later. I keep my apples wrapped and cool for as long as they will stay fresh. Otherwise, I cook them too and stew them. I leave lemons on the tree until I need them, usually, but limes I have to pick because they ripen all at once. And the same with the black currants and the red currants. And, you just have to smell the air when you're going out there to pick them, and you just think, oh, this is so nice. I'm going to have red currant jelly for Christmas. Or, even the lime trees. Even the lime trees, and I go out there and get myself some limes or some kaffir lime leaves. The smell is divine. That smell when you smell tomato plants?
Yeah.
I don't know if you do know that smell.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
So that can be for all kinds of different plants that have, put scent into the air. The other thing I have is asparagus, and I've dug up a whole lot of compost and spread that. Well, they won't be ready until, October, November. But nevertheless, I'm waiting for them. I'm excited.
Such a beautiful image of your garden, and kaffir lime is one of my all-time favorite smells and flavors. I can almost taste it hearing you talk about that. It's beautiful.
I have one recipe that I make, which is flavored specifically with turmeric and kaffir lime, and I do it with gummy shark. Oh, it is so delicious. And everybody says, wow, what's this, But it's because I have access to lime juice and fresh kaffir limes. I mean, it also has ginger in it and turmeric, which I am trying to grow ginger, and I will be successful one day, I think. I'll get myself a little bit of a hothouse happening. But, yeah, it's really – I try very hard to just use what I have and have what I use.
I love that. That's fantastic. I think, all of us are wanting to jump on a plane and come and stay with you, Wendy, and enjoy your gorgeous garden and cooking. Tell us a little bit about what role your business plays in the Flinders Island community.
Well, from time to time, I hold I have had a few meetings for people to talk to go to book club, to talk about women's issues. So it's a good venue for that. I do sing-alongs as well of an evening where people come. It doesn't cost people anything, like, to come, and we sing songs that are probably 100 years old, some of them or more. But it's fun to sing together, and then once we've had our sing-along, everyone has brought something to share for supper, and I always put something on, and I make coffee and tea for people. I offer them other drinks if they'd like, and we share stories then, or something really interesting or funny, or a joke, while we're all sort of around the kitchen bench having cups of tea and coffee for supper afterwards. So the sing-alongs have been quite been going for quite a long time now, but we haven't had them as often as we'd like. The last one I had to cancel because the lady who plays the piano was not well. But nevertheless, everybody knows they can come to a sing-along. If they're on Flinders Island, they can come along to Badger Corner at Cooma House and have a sing-along. I'm always hospitable. We always have cups of tea or a glass of wine while we're talking about the issues of the day, or just singing songs and telling jokes. I also enjoy doing cooking schools with people because so few people have an understanding now of where their food comes from. So that's one of my passions, to show people where their food comes from. I can show them what a raspberry plant looks like, or a lime tree, or a lettuce growing, although that's probably not as difficult to know, is it? But nevertheless, I have quite a big kitchen garden, and with lots and lots of different things in it at different seasons. So that means that I can not only talk about what I've got for people to share, and if I've got surplus, I'll give some to the distillery to make limoncello, or make some marmalade. That's on my mind at the moment, because that's what I'm making. Marmalade is a winter produce.
We can really hear the way that your business is embedded in the community and the way that you're sort of interacting with the community by hosting these kinds of things and acting in that role as host, which is what we do in the tourism hospitality sector, I think. We're interested in what you think a thriving Flinders Island community looks like, and I think, you know, you're a gardener and you know what a thriving garden looks like, I think, and it sounds like you feel that within your community as well. So I'd love to hear what you envision for Flinders' future, or what you see that thriving state for the island to be.
What I'd like to see happen is a pride in the stories and where we come from, so that we can share all of that. And I see that perhaps tourism can help in that way. I want to see, you know, tourism that comes a little at a time, people who want to come and experience the scenery and the bird life, and the extraordinary history. And talking about the extraordinary history, that's where our stories come from, you know, right back from the legendary Truganini. You know, she was so important to the survival of the First Nations of people, you know. I think she should be a household name because of her strategic skills and her language knowledge, her diplomacy skills, and also her sheer physical strength, you know. She was one of George Augustus Robinson's most significant advisors, and she should be up there in the same way that Boadicea is for the English when she fought the Romans when they invaded. So those stories are going to help shape Australia's understanding of itself. Instead of a them and us, I think, you know, the future for Flinders Island is more of that way of feeling together, growing together, and I would like to be part of and try very hard to give people a reason to be together.
I love that. It's a really, really beautiful, and to hear you talking about growing together. And I think as a gardener and someone that's bringing people together around food, I can see that, you know, that you're really contributing to that vision of people coming together.
Thank you. The reason that I come from Flinders Island is because my father was part of the soldier settlement scheme that began in the early 1950s, and they cleared the land on the eastern side of Flinders Island, which had remained bush since, you know, for thousands of years. The place that we went to live at was called Mamana, and the name Mamana actually, some people think, means to fight. But when you look into it more, you find that it's not really to fight, it's to go somewhere away from other people, as in the white people. The Aboriginal people went to Mamana so that they could work out what they were going to do. And sometimes they argued about it, but that's where they went to argue and to work out what to do while they were on Flinders Island, when they had been brought to Flinders Island. So that soldier settlement scheme where I grew up at Mamana, where my dad first cleared the land and built the house, looks over to the three patriarchs. Now, I don't know whether there was another name for that, but you can see the three patriarchs and you can see Babel Island. I could see that from my bedroom window. And I have to tell you that those visions, those scenic visions, have stayed in my mind all my life and have given me strength when there have been times that I needed strength, because looking at those mountains has said to me, this place is worth surviving. Those are the kinds of things that I can tell you about personally from the soldier settlement scheme, but I can also tell you the stories that my dad was part of the mess, which was feeding the people who worked on the soldier settlement scheme. And I guess, you know, genetically, I like to feed people as well. So, he passed that on to me from his side of the family. And I think I probably got it from my mother's side of the family too.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. That's really, really beautiful history. And I love that image of that you're talking about, the place giving you strength in times when you need it. That's so lovely.
Yeah, I was wanting to comment on that too, and just the power of connection to place too. People on Flinders, it sounds like, especially people with a long heritage like you, Wendy, that power of connection really informs and shapes who you are and how you view the world. And and you talk about storytelling a lot and the power of story and also your connection to nature when you look out the window and you see mountains. And how do those things, and they've shaped who you are, how does that shape what you think tourism can be on Flinders?
Every visitor that I have ever had with me on Flinders Island is always impressed by the scenery. And I think it's because we are living on mountains in the sea. So you have a lot of, you also have rolling plains, but not extensive rolling plains. But the backdrop is always a mountain somewhere in and around the Furno Islands. And so we are islands, mountains in the sea. And I think that the colours and the clearness of the sky and the beauty of the colours of the sea, the different colours of the sea, blow people's minds. They think, wow, when they come to Flinders Island, they just believe that they've come to a very, very beautiful place, and they drink in the scenery. They can't get enough of it. When I take them to the different places around Flinders Island, they can't believe that they can come to such a small place and see so many beautiful sights.
What would you want visitors to know before they come to Flinders Island? What's your message to visitors?
I'd like visitors to understand where they are coming to, that they are coming to a place that is remote, that is beautiful because it is remote. And as a result, the kinds of services that you may wish to have on a holiday elsewhere are not going to be necessarily at your fingertips on Flinders Island. You have to be resilient. You have to want to know what it's like to go outside with a good coat and a hat on and a good pair of boots. Those are the things that you need to remember to bring before you come, and a camera.
I love that. I love that image.
Is there anything else that we haven't asked you that you'd really like to talk about, or anything that you wanted to include that we've missed so far?
I think that our mountains in the sea are important. Bring yourself a hat and a coat and a good pair of boots, whatever the season, just to be prepared, to be, resilient. Those are the kinds of things that a lot of people don't understand. They also, I guess we have to be, it's very hard for people to come to Flinders Island because they haven't been brought up to understand that we get supplies once a week on the boat. Sometimes the boat is delayed. Those are the sorts of things that you have to say, oh, well, it's like the tide. You can't have the tide in all of the time because it goes out and it takes another 6 hours to come back in again. Little things like that, people don't realise now and could be disappointed, I suppose. But I just think let's try to be broad enough in our understanding of coming to Flinders Island that when you come, it's unique, it's special, and you're special to have come.
Thank you for listening to Latitude 40, redesigning tourism on a small island. This podcast is part of the Island Away project, which is being undertaken on Flinders Island by Designing Tourism. The project is funded by the Tasmanian Government.
We also acknowledge designing tourism partners Flinders Council, Visit Northern Tasmania and the Tourism Collab. The music is by Judy Jacques and the introduction, read by Yana Monone, is an extract from the Flinders Island brand story The Island Away. This podcast has been hosted and produced by Good Awaits, Debbie Clark and Josie Major, with audio production by Clary Macklin.